Can you hear me? It's a shame. Yeah, so I'm Stuart. Just to lower your expectations slightly, I'm neither a data scientist nor a data analyst, really. I am a strategist at an agency called Mint, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about Mint, because I have to, a little bit about the project, the client that we worked with on this project that I'm going to talk about, which is the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. I'm going to go through some of the challenges we faced when we digitally transformed them, which is I've always thought is a very grand way of saying you redesigned some stuff that they did. We're going to talk about how we did it, what we did, and then some questions, maybe. So about Mint, that's not looking too good, but in a nutshell, we do digital transformations for big brands, non-profits. We do, that bit says venture development, which is basically doing product development on our own dime, which we then spin out, and in some cases those products are acquired by other entities. And this is rapid product development, believe it or not, which is kind of doing, rapid prototype sprints and so on. This is one of the things Mint has been responsible for. It's called Stickygram. It was putting photos on fridge magnets, basically. That was acquired by Photobox. Oomph is putting photos on marshmallows. You might see a theme developing here. That's also a Mint enterprise. Deskbeers is having craft and small batch drinks delivered to your office. There's no photo element to that one yet. And due to the range of stuff we do, we've come into contact with quite a varied range of clients, and those are some of the people that we've worked with. So I'm going to talk about the work we did with the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. Now, I can see some people who may be old enough to remember when Christopher Reeve played Superman. I remember that as well, so my condolences. So Christopher Reeve was Superman up until, I think, the late 80s. In 1995, I believe, he had a horrific horse riding accident which left him quadriplegic, which meant that he was paralyzed in all his limbs and also his torso. So him and his wife created a foundation to help people similarly injured. They kind of joined forces with the American Paralysis Association, and it all kind of came under the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. Christopher and Dana Reeve are no longer with us, but the foundation has kind of taken the brand values that they instituted and aimed to continue to kind of project those. And those are values around hope for people who have been injured and enablement, really. They don't talk about people suffering from paralysis, they talk about people affected by paralysis. And there's a real emphasis on the fact that paralysis doesn't just affect the person who's become injured, but also their entire circle of kind of being, so whether that's family, caregivers, and so on. So their mission is they are dedicated to curing spinal cord injury. They fund innovative research, improving the quality of life for people living with paralysis, grants, information, advocacy, etc. So just some quick stats. 5.3 million people in the US are living with paralysis. That's approximately 1 in 50. 84% are unable to obtain necessary medical care, treatment, or tests. The foundation was formed in 1999, and they only employ around 50 staff, so it's a fairly small operation. So the 84% figure there kind of speaks to the importance of an organisation like this in the lives of people who are affected by paralysis. In addition to that, to the services they offer, They also, with the money they raise, they redistribute that, so they've donated over $120 million to clinical laboratories who are researching cures, and they also have donated several $million to non-profit organisations in local communities. So that could be something like a local rehab support group, but they also kind of donate to organisations that are not necessarily directly related to paralysis. So the challenges that Mint faced when working with the foundation were probably fairly recognisable to anybody else who's worked with a charity. So there was a shoestring budget, but ambition that went way beyond that. They had grown over the years in a slightly erratic manner. So, one area of the organisation has become quite robust, another area was kind of less so. Their team was not especially digitally skilled. That was kind of exacerbated by the fact that a lot of the software they were using was quite outdated. And all of that really translated into a difficulty executing actual operational things that delivered to the vision that they were aiming to communicate. So that's what the website used to look like. So you can see there's like quite a lot of things competing for your attention there. So going down a level to the data challenges that we faced, the things that Ben was talking about in terms of data being all over the place and not particularly tidy and stuff, struck a chord because the organisation had a lot of data in different silos. A lot of those silos were, again, kind of exacerbated by third-party legacy systems. Poor old third parties get a bit of a hard time in talks like this. And not many of these systems talk to each other. Offline and online were treated as basically different realms of being. So the experience you might have as someone who came into contact with the organisation in the physical world would have a completely different experience to someone who went to the website and tried to take some action there. Contact addresses and inboxes all over the place, and myriad spreadsheets and databases. So part of our work really was to not only use data for our purposes to enhance what their digital presence was, but also to kind of educate them as to the data that they were sitting on that they didn't realise was quite valuable and enable them to plug into it to enhance what they offered. So our approach at a pretty high level was basically speaking to the organisation to ensure that needs of different types of use were differentiated. So you might receive an email from one area of the organisation that was completely irrelevant to you and your needs. That happens a lot. We impress on them the need to record every interaction and to treat relationships as data. And the reason for that is that, as you probably know, I'm sure, a charity is only as strong as its constituents, and constituents are only as strong as you enable them to be. So it was really about trying to remove barriers that people faced, so that if individuals were able to complete the actions they wanted to do, they would build a strong relationship with the foundation and therefore spread the foundation's message. So that's what the website looks like now. You don't have to view it on both a laptop and a mobile phone at the same time, but I do recommend that. There were challenges in terms of CRM. So there was no customer relationship management system in place. As I said, data was scattered amongst different repositories, which made relationships really hard to form in the digital space. If you're kind of carrying out an action and that action is not recorded and that does not feed into the next interaction that you have with the organisation, it's pretty demoralising, and especially if if you have very specific and quite important needs, and it doesn't do your brand any favours either. So the solution that we kind of implemented there was Salesforce. So Salesforce offer a foundation grant for non-profits, so we made use of that. That enabled us to streamline and connect those different silos of data that were sitting around. And it enabled the foundation to start benefiting from those relationships it had forged. And yeah, if you want to learn more about the Salesforce Foundation, obviously that is on their website. So combining a CRM system and the refreshed design meant that people could not only find out how to fill out a form it was made more prominent, things like applying to become a peer mentor or requesting a peer mentor, because they have lots of these networks that help people. So refreshing the design of the form made it easier for people to use and fill out, and then implementing a CRM obviously made it easier for the foundation to make use of that data that sat at the other end. Advocacy was a really important challenge. Advocacy is the process of taking action with a view to having some kind of political outcome. I guess there's been a lot of that in the news recently. So one of the challenges was getting people to share their thoughts around topics, getting in touch with senators, lending their voice to important issues. It was all manual. There was no online solution to that. Letters, I don't know if anybody remembers letters, but they're basically emails that go on paper. And if you want to delete one, you have to tear it up. But all advocacy kind of contact that was to take place in the name of the foundation was basically done by letters to senators, which, I'm not saying that doesn't have an impact, but if you've got 5 minutes in your day to try and affect some kind of change or lend your voice to a cause, it's not the quickest way. So the solution that we implemented for that was software called Phone to Action. This has the ability to become an advocate in a few minutes. It integrates really nicely with social media, so it kind of pre-populates. You can set it to pre-populate certain text. So if you want to send an email to a senator, and you also want to share that on the fact that you've done that on Twitter, you can do that all within the same interface. So it made it easier for people to lend their voice to topics that they cared about, which enabled the foundation to have a louder voice on relevant issues, and that meant they have more potential to affect real policy and societal change. That's an example of the interface, which is really very easy to implement and really easy for people to use as well. In terms of email communications, similar kind of issues really. It was all very uncoordinated. They were unable to segment any of their communications. Messages were kind of sent off in a scattergun approach, and obviously there was no ability to track behaviour and use that to inform future actions. So we used MailChimp there, which enabled targeted communications, the ability to segment, obviously, and possibly more importantly, the ability to analyse and refine campaigns so that those could get better over time. Again, MailChimp have quite a lot of good offers for non-profits, and they produce a lot of good content as well, even if you don't use MailChimp. If you are a charity or working with a charity and you want to learn a bit more about stuff like storytelling for non-profits and whatnot, MailChimp and Salesforce are both pretty good at that. So fundraising is obviously arguably the most important thing for a charity. The interesting thing about this one was that it was actually more effort to donate online for the Reeve was to send a check in the mail. So that's how most people donated. They sent checks. Checks are kind of like PayPal, but in written form. So it meant that that was a huge kind of administrative burden. It meant databases of constituents were kind of unreliable. You were kind of relying on whoever opens that envelope to record that information, put it in the right place, etc. And it also made it really hard to identify the interests of the people who were donating. So we used Classy to revamp this part of the operation. It's aimed directly at non-profits. It's really easy to integrate into things like event pages. You can identify different donors by interest. So, for example, a key way that the foundation raises money is by appealing to people to include them in their estate planning, so that once they're no longer here, they have set up some provision for the foundation. Previously that was quite hard to understand and not the easiest thing to implement. So making things like that easier were kind of no-brainers really. So obviously it became easier to donate. It was as easy to set up a recurring donation as it is to donate once. And conveniently, it integrates really nicely with MailChimp and Salesforce. So that's kind of a snapshot of what one element of the donation flow looks like there. So you just tick a box to make it a monthly payment. And finally, coming to content and user experience. So the website that I showed you at the start, it was very bloated. There was little to no kind of way to navigate through it in a linear fashion. It was kind of like, you know, you just build stuff on top of stuff, on top of stuff, on top of stuff. So it was hard for people to find what they wanted, obviously. And unfortunately, it meant that a lot of the really great work that the foundation does, I mean, I could do a whole different talk on that and the number of, you know, mentorship networks they offer and local community work and stuff. All of that stuff was kind of hidden away. If you landed via search, it was, you know, very hard to tell what page was related to what section, etc., etc. So some stuff we did there included using data to inform decisions around information architecture and navigation. That enabled us to make the really important things more prominent, and we also put together a resource map of tools and services throughout the US. So the Living with Paralysis section kind of speaks to the fact that parents and caregivers are just as likely to need help as someone living with paralysis. And I believe things like that were kind of hidden away before. Newly paralysed, kind of quite prominent there as well. You know, unsurprisingly, if something happens to you, the first thing you're going to do is Google a way to make your life easier, find a solution, etc. And this is the resource map. So this was built from data that the organisation already had, but weren't really, they weren't maximising, you know, what they could do with it. It was basically just a big long list. So this was kind of built partly on Google Maps, I believe. No? Yeah. Ex-colleague here who's a big part of building this and the whole project, actually. So yeah, this enabled people to search for things near them, whether it be quality of life grant, or peer network, what have you. So I guess that's a very quick look at the data-related stuff that we did. I mean, we also did a redesign, we implemented a new content management system and all that kind of stuff. But some of the key outcomes, donations were up 20% on the whole of the previous year, 4 months after launch, which was obviously a huge validation of our work, but kind of more importantly, it enabled the foundation to see the value of the data that they had, and to treat it more valuably moving forward. And they get hardly any checks in the mail anymore. That's it. Thank you.